Hello, everyone. Sorry about the delay. We are still having some technical difficulties with getting Lama's sound set up, but we're going to go ahead and begin. Osho Zenju is here, and we can at least start having a conversation, and we can introduce our panelists. And hopefully in the coming moments, Lama's sound will start to work just fine. So in that case, I'll take this time to introduce everyone, and we'll begin with our program. So once again, welcome, thank you, and apologies for the technical difficulties. My name is Joe Evans. I'll be your facilitator for this event today. This marks our first session of Tara Mandala's In Conversation series. In Conversation series is a collection of dialogues between Lama Tsultrim Allione and other esteemed wisdom teachers. In this session, Lama Tsultrim is going to be joined by Osho Zenju Earthlyn Manuel. Before we begin, I would like to go over a couple of technical details, which we're already having some challenges with, but we'll do our best. So we're using Zoom's webinar feature today for this conversation, so you're all muted, but you can reach me through the chat. I'm already seeing some messages going back and forth in there. So as we try to work out our technical difficulties, I'll be trying to track those as best I can. If you would like to make an auspicious connection of offering dana with Lama Tsultrim and Osho Zenju, I'll be posting some links in the chat shortly where you can do that as well. And although we will try to get some questions, it might be a little bit difficult with the time constraints combined with some of the technical difficulties that we're experiencing. But if you have questions, please feel free to send them into the chat, or if you're watching via YouTube, you can post them there and we'll track them as best we can.
I'm connected now.
Great.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Excellent. So now Lama's sound is on, which is fantastic. So at this point, I will do a really brief introduction because I do want to introduce both of you so everyone gets an idea of some of your work, and then we'll get started. So Lama Tsultrim Allione is an internationally known Buddhist teacher, author, and the founder of Tara Mandala. She's the author of Women of Wisdom, Feeding Your Demons, and Wisdom Rising, Journey into the Mandala of the Empowered Feminine. In 2007, Lama Tsultrim was recognized as an emanation of Machik Labdron at Machik's monastery in Tibet. In 2009, she was selected as an outstanding woman in Buddhism by the Outstanding Women in Buddhism Committee's panel of distinguished Buddhist scholars and practitioners. Lama continues to guide thousands of students around the world. Osho Zenju Earthlyn Manuel was ordained in the Suzuki Roshi lineage. She has a PhD, she's a poet and an author. Essentially, she's a seer, in which she has woven herself into various frameworks to ultimately bring forth her visionary work. Her transmissions come through her books, The Deepest Peace, Sanctuary, The Way of Tenderness, and the Black Angel cards, 36 oracles and messages, her first visionary experience. She also teaches from her experience of African and Native American indigenous ceremony and her own awakening on the intersection of spirituality and systemic oppression. Thank you so very much for joining us, Lama Tsultrim and Osho Zenju. At this point, I will pass it off to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe, and sorry everybody for the delay in starting this conversation, but somehow all of a sudden it worked, so I'm happy to be here with you. And so mainly I'm going to be interviewing Zenju, and also she may ask me some questions, or I may contribute in some way if there's something relevant from the tradition that I speak from. And so maybe I could start with a general question for you, Zenju, which is, now in this current world of COVID and how everything has changed in the last year, how do you see this exploration of darkness Has it changed for you? Has it deepened? Where are you with it?
Well, I want to just kind of briefly state before I answer that I began an exploration around darkness last year, 2020, when the pandemic coronavirus came about. And I noticed many people struggling with it. I also noticed that the darkness had a relationship to Blackness as well, and Black people, and just the inability of us to be with it and as a society. And so I began to explore it. And the first thing I noticed in my exploration was that people wanted to get out of the darkness, right? And I was very happy staying with it. And because inside of me, I knew that the light that we seek is in that darkness. And that we are always in the dark. I mean, that's the unknown, that's the mystery of life. And so as I continue to explore even now, I don't think really much of what I've come up with has changed. And then, so I think I've been exploring it for a long time, this thing called life, right? And many of us have on the spiritual path. And so I haven't seen anything new other than I think people might feel a lot of people think they're out of the darkness. I think that's the new illumination. Yeah. And I don't want to rain on anybody's parade or anything like that, or joy, because we should have joy and celebrate when we can. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm mostly talking about this deep kind of sacred, natural, organic process of darkness that's within our lives, and how can we use it? Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I'm really excited to be talking to Lama Tsultrim, because I began to look at the Dark Mother pantheon and of different traditions. And I did land on the Voodoo one, but I am very interested in the deities, the Dark Mothers and the deities that we often don't know about, but if we studied them, I think we'd get a bit of understanding about this great kind of organic darkness that we have in our lives.
That we need in our lives.
Exactly. You know, that it is life. And I remember you telling me about that the deity in your tradition, the main one that is associated with Kali or Mahakali, and you had a name for it. I didn't write it down, but I wanted to hear a little bit more about that, and then share. And then share some of my deities.
Yeah. Well, there's several manifestations of the Dark Mother in the Tibetan tradition. The main one is Troma Nakmo. Tro means fierce or wrathful. Ma is feminine, and Nak is black, and Mo is feminine. So the feminine is in there twice. It's at the Tro Ma and the Nak Mo. And so she is a deity that's associated with the Che practice. And the Che practice is a Buddhist practice, but it's also shamanic. And in the Che practice, you undergo your own death. And your consciousness leaves your body and then transfers into Troma Nakmo, into her heart. And then she takes her Vajra chopper knife, and now your body is a corpse, because your consciousness has left it and is now in her. So your body's a corpse, and then she takes her knife and she cuts around the top of your head, of your corpse, and then pulls that off, and it becomes a vessel, a cup, which then expands to be 3,000 times bigger. And then she puts the rest of your body in there, chopped up, put it in there. And then there's a flame that begins underneath that skull cup, cauldron, really, cauldron of transformation. And it heats it, and then the there's a like foam that boils out of it that's impurities, and a steam that rises up, and it hits the syllable hum, and that hum flips and drips into that cauldron of transformation, and that's the masculine. The fire is the feminine, and that dripping is the masculine, and they come together in that skull cup and then create the nectar, which you then feed to the various different guests, which include Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but also include the darker forces of our mind. It's called the Black Feast, and it's disease-bearing beings, debt holders, and karmic debtors. And so that they come in, and they all feast from this nectar that's been created. And so Trungpa Nakpo's overseeing this kind of banquet of nectar and of feeding all beings. And so, yeah, I noticed when I said that, I talked about the Black Feast as the negative, the disease-bearing beings, and so on. And so that word is used in a negative way there, but in a positive way in the Trungpa Nakmo. So that's kind of both those elements are being represented there.
Yeah. I heard it, when I was studying the Dark Mothers, and actually this is going to be part of a book that's coming out year after next that I'm writing. But even what we perceive as negative, sometimes when we're talking about darkness, our dark mothers and this kind of negative force, we might use those words when we see and hear wrathfulness, but to understand what the purpose of the wrathfulness is, because we've taken the purpose away and we just add this negative experience. And it's the pandemic's crazy, everything's crazy, but there's something going on in this kind of spiritual level, in the way that these dark mothers, our dark deities, work in the sense of protecting us. There's a protection there. And while they're coming with the sword, I always say they come with the flowers as well, is protecting the sanctity of humanity. If we weren't shaken up by the wrathfulness and the disturbance and the interruption, we would just keep going on like, nothing's going on. So that's what we were doing probably a whole lot before the pandemic came along. One of the dark deities that is also associated with Mahakali, but it's not talked a lot about in Japanese Buddhism, is the Daikoku Tenyo. Daikoku Tenyo. And she is Mahakali. And Daikokuten is the Mahakala, the male. So I wanted to share an image of her because people don't see this image. It's mostly, I think, held in the Taoism, which is the basis, the shamanic base of much of Zen today. And so she is strictly Mahakali in the sense of being fierce and has wrathfulness. There are several temples in Japan that have statues in the front who actually honor the dark deity. And it's in the front of, they have statues in front and inside. And there's even a temple in Japan called Daikokuji. So I'm gonna try to share, if I can, a screen of a picture of her. And then, yes, that's right, Daikoku, and she's Daikoku Tenyo, Tennyo. So let's see if I can get up a picture of her, if this will work. I had it up earlier. Might not be as easy since we went through a number of changes coming on. And I think that might be still true. So I'm not going to bother with it right now. I'll work on that later to share a photo from my, hopefully.
One of the things that that I wrote about in my last book, Wisdom Rising, about the wrathful feminine, the fierce feminine, this is an archetype that has been denied and repressed. But really, we need this fierceness. We need it to stop what's going on in terms of the destruction of our earth.
Right.
And there's a story, there's a Milarepa story, which I found very interesting, where he's in the mountains and he's in his cave as usual, and he's approached by the people of the town saying that they have an epidemic in the town that's being caused by the Dakinis, by the fierce Dakinis. Mm-hmm. And so then he has a meeting with this particular Dakini, and she said the reason why we are doing this is because they've been polluting this area with noxious smoke. The villagers were burning something noxious. And so as long as that's happening, we will be returning with illness. Mm-hmm. And then Milarepa says to her, well, that's not really based on bodhicitta, and can we in some way make offerings to you and placate this so that villagers aren't dying? And so he does that. He gives it to them and to these Dakinis. But I've always felt so many of these diseases that we have now, including the coronavirus, which is really created out of a pretty nasty situation for animals. Mm-hmm. And then spread. But that meanness and sort of misuse of animals, that's just so much all over the world and is causing extinctions, but also just daily in our consumption of their flesh. And that was in a market where people were eating those things. That these illnesses, in a way, are messages from those wrathful mothers, and that fierce voice may be really necessary. And I feel like that's part of what you're talking about. Is that true?
That is true. I think that even ourselves can be messengers through this darkness. There is messages coming through for us right now. And that it's the wrathfulness of dark mothers. I mean, just think about even maybe your own mother. I had a mother that was definitely, I would consider a wrathful mother. But at the same time, there was this other wrath here, and then this other hand of flowers, this is which I hold. So I'm not honoring any abuse, but I am understanding her need to protect this Black child in this world, against what she saw, but I did not, because I was young. I didn't understand anything about, racism and all these kinds of things. And she did, being from rural Louisiana. But I think, and I'm going to be talking more about what I'm presenting here in a retreat that's going to be at Tara Mandala soon, and I think it's in June. And so what we are, if we can sit still long enough to receive the messages in this darkness, I think we'll be amazed at how far beyond our own thinking and mind that what would come up for us to do as a society, as human beings, and in relationship to animals as well. Because as you said, it started with the animals. And it's just like, wow, they didn't expect any diseases from the animals to cross. You know, we're just acting like they're not interrelated with us. And I think it's such a powerful message right there, you know, to get in relationship again with animals around us and what we're doing and how we're doing it, how they're being slaughtered for nothing and for, you know, way over any need or demand. So, yeah, I feel that definitely, you know, that the messengers are here if we can understand what the darkness is and live with it. You know,
I was really struck when you said right in the beginning that the darkness is the unknown, the great mystery. And I don't know if you used the word great mystery, but that was the word.
I did. I'm sure I used it. I do use that word. Yeah.
And the ability to embrace the not knowing of our lives. That's such a powerful idea because we're always trying to get rid of that, get rid of the not knowing,
right,
and know everything.
Yeah, we want the light to be on all the time. You know, so imagine living like that, the light on all the time. You know?
Yeah.
And I guess some people may live like that. I don't know.
How do you understand dreaming in terms of this?
Dreaming is, I'm a dreamer, and I'm a lucid dreamer. And a lot of my relationships happen in dreams. My relationship to the world, to people, to animals, ancestors, everyone shows up in my dreams. And I was once told, well, dreams are representations of yourself. And for me, that's not true. My dreams are prophetic. And so I don't know if maybe that person's dreams are representations of themselves. But for me, they're more prophetic. The symbolism, the people who show up, what they say, how they are. I'm about to cry because last night I just had a dream about a person who now has Alzheimer's, so I can't really reach her. And she was in my dream and we reached each other in the dream. And I knew we did. I could feel it. I was so happy when I woke up. And the way she hugged me and laughed was the way she used to do all the time. And I was joking with her about some Native American trinkets because I said, these are for sale. It's a joke, right? Because people buy all kind of spiritual trinkets and don't know what they're buying. And so we kind of laughed about it. And it was a long dream, but it also had our ceremonies that we did together were usually on dry land here, dry environments, usually brown, not very lush land in New Mexico. And in this dream, though, we were making our prayer ties on these like vines with flowers on them. And our prayer ties were on these vines rather than strings. We usually put them on strings. So it was telling me that something is still fertile and about her, about the community, about life, about this land, that still, no matter what you see, how dry it is, you know, we could be consumed by, oh, it's so dry, then the planet's dead, the rivers are full of sand, and we could go that way. Or we could also look at the messages in our dreams, in the darkness, that say everything is going in the direction it needs to go to. The land is fertile. The land can be brought back, to, if we can see, if we can be light messengers rather than creating our own light. See, I didn't create my own light about the situation with my friend. It just came to me, right, in the dream. I didn't say, oh, it's all gonna be better. It'll never be better or anything. And it's better for me right now this morning. And now I hadn't seen her for a long time, and I'm ready to see her now, ready to visit.
I'm struck by the idea that you go into the darkness, which is sleep, turn off the lights, and then there's illumination in the darkness.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of the dark retreat in the Tibetan tradition that we talked about a little bit. The dark retreat is called the Bardo retreat, and an environment of complete darkness is created where the air it kind of goes in through tubes, so there's no light coming in with the air. And you go into the dark for 7 weeks.
Wow.
And in that process, you begin to see. And there's various practices that you do in the darkness that activate the subtle body and the ground of being that resides in all of our hearts. And that begins to create visions that you actually see in the dark. And that practice is a very important practice for reaching the rainbow body, which is when, at the time of death, when the body breaks down, the cells in the body reintegrate into light, and there's no corpse left. There's only the hair and fingernails left. And so that dark retreat creates the conditions of death, essentially, before death, and then this process is activated, which then takes place when the actual death occurs. And so it's really interesting in terms of what you're saying, that in the dark, the light comes, but it's an inner light. It's an inner clarity of our true nature. And that's the same that what you're saying about the dreams, where you go into the darkness of the night, but your dreams are dreams of clarity. We talk in the Tibetan tradition about karmic dreams and dreams of clarity, and they're different. And it sounds like you have mainly dreams of clarity. And then there are, the normal dreams are just sort of rehashing and processing our hopes and fears, essentially.
Yeah.
But your dreams of clarity are really illuminating.
Yeah, I'm guided, very, very much, guided by them. I think, just we try to mimic this in meditation, where we go into this darkness. We usually have the lights out when we meditate, right? And we go into the darkness, especially in Zen. You sit in a dark Zendo with the candlelight, and this darkness and this reduction of distraction is really important, to the whole body and the body of the spirit, the whole physical body and the body of the spirit, in order to meet each other. Because if there's a distraction, then it can't happen. So all the chanting that we do, calling in the ancestors, the drums, the bell, all of that, to me, are shamanic activities, whether they might say it or not, or think of them that way, are shamanic activities they've been clipped, but shamanic activities that are intended for what we're talking about. I think if they were extended. So I'm also writing about that as well, the shamanic bones of Zen, and why it looks so different than many other Buddhist traditions. So I'm very interested in this still exploring darkness too, at the same time, which is interesting, and bringing it to this world so that the darkness, even those who say they love darkness, I've had people like even my, say, oh, I love darkness, I don't have any problems. And I ask them, does that transfer, over to dark people, dark things, dark matters in life?
Mm-hmm.
And they have to pause. Many are, some will say yes very fast. But I think as a society, the misinterpretation and misunderstanding of darkness and what it is, its purpose, and can we live in the absence of light? Can we open to the absence of light?
Mm-hmm.
It's very important to how I think we will continue as a humanity, as people, as that will be more loving to each other and therefore loving to animals, mm-hmm. and to everything else, to a tree, to an ant, to whatever, so it won't come out of our heads. Oh, I should be loving to an ant. Well, you might not really feel that way. You just know you should be because it's one of the precepts or something, but can it come from that darkness, that place of mystery, and discover? We are to discover life, not know it. Mm. That's the way I have lived my life. I feel like I once I know it, suddenly that's gone. That it's not even there for me to know, whatever that thing is or person, something changes, and so it's constant discovery right up until laying or sitting in our death position. Mm. There is the discovery. And although as frightened as I am of that moment, I keep trying to imagine I just smile at the discovery that will come at that time. I'm just wondering what that'll be, but it does light up my world. I don't know if we have any time for questions from the audience.
We've got a few minutes.
Okay.
Maybe we can invite some questions. In the meantime, maybe I'll ask you one more question.
Okay.
Let some questions accumulate. Mm-hmm. With this way that you dream, your dreams of clarity or lucid dreaming, did you train in that, or was this something that just spontaneously happened?
When I was in junior high, I remembered I was about 11, and I went to junior high at 11 years old, and I had a teacher, and I think she was studying in the lucid. Now that I'm grown, I realized that she studied lucid dreaming, and she would teach us things like, she said, when you wake up in the morning, I don't want you to move. I want you to stay still. I want you to breathe. And then she started saying, like, notice how when you wake up in the morning, you can't make a fist, and you really can't. She said, just notice how your body's not the body you had when you went to sleep. And so I started doing all these different kinds of things. I remember doing that with her, this teacher. I don't even remember her name, but I remember her teaching that. And it must have sunk in. So all of my life, I have had these dreams. I've found jobs, and I've known of friends, death around friends and people. I don't always tell people about what I see, but I learned to just kind of hold on to those things. It's just something to see and know for in case I am to be a part of it or engaged in that. Mm-hmm. But I never trained with any other teachers in it. I've always been interested in how to deepen it and how to use it more, for my life, other than just having it happen, like, which it does. It happens. And it happens when I take a nap in the afternoon, or it happens in the morning. If I have to wake up and go back to sleep for the lucid dream, and then it comes. My oracle, the Black Angel cards oracle, came in a dream at 4:30 in the morning, but I woke up, went to sleep, came back to that. It just, I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what an oracle was. I had gotten readings, like tarot card readings, but I didn't know what this was. And I went about just pulling it together, and sharing it. So it's currently, sorry folks, out of print. It's been around for 20 years, but it's maybe it'll get picked up by someone. Yeah, maybe a publisher will pick it up again.
So there are a couple of questions here. I can read them to you. What can we all practice to deepen our trust in the Dark Mother? What can we all practice to deepen our trust in the Dark Mother?
I think practicing going through the fire. You said the fire was female. To go toward it. I'm into talking about fire a lot myself and how sacred it is, and to be able to walk through the fire. I don't know. What do you think, Lama Tsultrim, about that question?
We all practice. It's interesting that she uses the word practice.
Yeah.
Well, I think practicing like the Tramanakmo practice, if you have access to that, or something like the Chud practice, when you become her in that transformation, those are specific practices. I also teach and practice the blue-black lion-headed Dakini, Siamuka. That's one of my main practices, and we are having a retreat about that in a few weeks. So those are actual practices that we could do.
I think for me it has been also the Zen world, that I think a lot of people turn around when they see all the forms and everything going on, that just doesn't make any sense, and it definitely doesn't make any sense if you're looking onto it. But if you're engaged in it over time, you have to stay long enough for it and kind of see the practice within yourself and not what other people are doing and saying. Then you begin to, I think, understand life. That's how I began to understand and explore life as darkness, by the long sitting, in the dark. Yeah.
Let's see. Will you be including Dreamwork in your upcoming retreat? If so, in what way?
Yeah, I tend not to teach Dreamwork because I don't know what that is.
It just happened to you.
Yeah. And I never taught it. And a lot of people look for it. They kind of try to draw it out. They come to me for it. And I just experience, there's a lot of things I experience in life I cannot teach. Like I do divinations with people. I can see some people's ancestors when I'm in session, but I cannot teach it. I don't know how to teach it.
Yeah. For those of you who are interested, and actually there are courses in that in the Tibetan tradition, and there is a book called Dream Yoga. And it's also considered quite an advanced practice, the Dream Yoga. So not necessarily something that you do as a beginner, but yeah, it sounds like, I think my analysis of what happened is that you came into this life without a lot of karmic accumulation, and therefore at a young age, clarity started to manifest in your mind stream, and that's been your guide. And so that isn't something you could teach because it's karmic. It's karmic.
Okay.
It's a karmic situation that you're in. So that would make sense that you can't teach it. Okay, I'm going to look here for another. In those dark moments when you feel vulnerable, frightened, and when everything looks so hostile, how can I make peace with that darkness?
You can't force it. That's all I know. You can't say, I'm going to be at peace while you're trembling. But what you can do is while you're trembling, know that something else is going to appear. That's it. You just have to know, because it always has. Just trust the experience of life. Something else has always appeared through the trembling. For me, that has been my experience of life.
Yeah, and I would mention the demon work, feeding your demons, where you actually invite that darkness or the fear to take form, and you ask it what it really needs, and then feed it. And then that energy that's caught in the demon becomes the ally. So that's maybe, Joe, you could put a link to that in case it's somebody who doesn't know that.
It's great. There's such many wonderful resources coming here. I know I have myself. I'm very interested in practicing some of the, or learning, not practicing, learning, and coming to that gateway of some of the Tibetan traditions and practices through your center. Yeah. Very interested. Yeah.
Thank you.
I tried to sign up for one, like I told you before.
Yeah.
And my mind kind of stopped me because I thought, oh, I don't have the instruments. And
I think you'd be very interested in the feeding your demon work.
Yeah, I did actually with some of your practitioners and it was powerful. I don't remember their names right off because but I did the Feeding the Demons retreat in California once, and it was very powerful. Very powerful.
Yeah. Okay, here's another question. In this stepping into the dark, not knowing, I find myself and my whole body experiencing enormous insecurity and restlessness. Where do you find an anchor of security to get you through this insecurity and the experience of not being calm?
Calm is overrated. And I always tell people, if that's your only, I just said that on another talk, if that's your only result and goal, and you need it right away, you need it today, there are quite a few T's that will help you. And I'm not being facetious. I'm just saying people work too hard for that one. There's, exercise and calm. There's other things. Are you ready to do a practice, to walk a spiritual walk, to develop it into a relationship or interrelationship with a teacher or teachings, and be there committed and devoted? These are the things, rather than just let's find out how to get calm. And there's videos, I guess, that show you how to breathe. But, these things are okay. But if you're looking for something to sustain your life, and I'm thinking you might be, that you even asked the question, that you might be thinking of that, something to sustain your life, that you go on through the places that feel disruptive, that are not calm, and study that darkness, study it, be with it long enough. Don't try to jump into something that's going to solve it. We're medicine oriented, we're definitely prescriptive oriented. So we want a prescription, to these things. But I think we're being asked, the pandemic is loud, right? Loud and clear. And all the killings that have been going on, loud and clear, been going on, saying we need to go deeper than just the instant medicine, that we can get, or the instant answer, but to get ourselves on some kind of path. It doesn't have to be a traditional one, create something in which you can see, I haven't been in Zen all my life, in which you can see, do ceremonies, learn what ceremonies and retreats are, and then come with your uncalm self. Because if you're too calm, maybe people won't trust that. Maybe you trust it, that kind of calmness. And are you creating something that's not real for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think also that embracing that groundlessness, that feeling of not having an anchor, to try to become familiar with that and not just try to run away from it, but allow it. Practice of mindfulness, of just breathing and being present with the feeling. That feeling may be a fear or unanchored, ungroundedness, that it is in fact our reality. The ego keeps trying to create groundedness,
Yes.
solidity,
Yeah.
but it's not the actual state. It's not our true nature.
It's
And
not.
so it keeps getting disrupted. And so I think, becoming, and what Zenju's, I think, trying to say is become comfortable with that, just that you can embrace it and you don't have to run away. It is maybe uncomfortable at first, but it could become your friend.
It's a powerful, sacred, transformative place.
Mm-hmm.
There is a constant fear inside of all of us. It's constant. We're going to die. That's constant. And so you can't run backwards to get away from it, So I think a constant disruption in life is very sacred. I have been pushed over the cliff many times.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm going to be pushed over again because I'm going to die. So it's just going to keep going on. And I noticed that when I am pushed over, and I'm just imagine flying in the air with nothing to grip. And then when it's over, I'm still alive. I survived it. And I could either kind of go back and look for where I was holding on to, or I can just keep going and see what else is going to be presented to my life. And usually I go on, because you really can't usually go back. You can't jump back up on the cliff, right? When something's pushed you over. And so sometimes I say I'm fortunate to have been pushed over so many times in order to come to this place where I sit right now, in order to encounter very powerful Lama. I think that's just really to be in this moment, to talk to everyone who is sitting here. And in this moment is very sacred, and it will not happen again in this way, in the way it's happening now. I just learned that through being pushed over the cliff so many times. Yeah.
So maybe you could talk a little bit about what you will do in this retreat, that you're going to teach. Give people a little more idea about it.
I am going to introduce for the first time these 8 gateways to opening to the absence of light, which is opening to the darkness. And everyone's to bring their experiences there. And as we go along each day, I will introduce a deity, a dark mother from the Buddhan pantheon. And I will introduce that, and then we'll look at the elements. We'll talk about blessings. We may even write our own blessings. We may even do some artwork in that retreat. And someone said about dreams, bring your dreams. This will all be part of the body, that we're going to create together online, and see what happens in a week, to see if how we experience darkness has shifted, maybe not greatly, but to some extent. And so we will walk each day in not in a pressured way, but in a way of noticing. We're going to how to notice, how to experience the darkness. Sometimes we're afraid of the dark before it even comes. Just in each section, I will introduce some probably exercises, and then ways of walking in different gateways. And the different gateways lead from opening way in the beginning and then death is in the end, you know, and then looking at celebrations of death and these kinds of deities of that. And, you know, looking at even in the middle there, there's a whole section about being children, you know, in our childhood and in darkness. And so it's going to be different gateways just to help you explore in the way that I explored. So it's an exploration. It's not a specific training where you'll come out, you know, with some special knowing necessarily that you can teach in your retreat next, you know, but it will be something hopefully that you can use in your life and in the moment. And as the week ends, that you will have a different perspective. And I want to engage and help people engage in looking at where we are right now, you know, with everything in this world, everywhere in the world, not just our land, you know, but everywhere in the world, and to begin to question and rather than just always turning and you know, blaming and complaining, and that's okay. I do it. I'm a human being. And but not only that, and I speak out, but not only that, I write. I write politically, but not only that, but to see what it is. What is it asking? I saw somebody had posted one of my poems. Darkness is asking to be loved because we hate it so much. When all the killings were happening, that's the poem I wrote. Darkness is asking to be loved. So I wasn't just saying Black people are asking. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about darkness is asking to be loved. We don't like it. And to see if we can let that go and understand what has happened to us in our hearts and minds from whatever, however we got these. We'll explore that too, how we came to some of these things that are in our minds, and then grow. I was listening to the Lama, like some of the practices she's talking about. You have to grow into those dark practices and experiences. I'm very curious about the one where you're put in the dark. And there's in the Dagara tradition, African Dagara tradition, you're buried in dirt, you know. So these kinds of things have always called me, because it's a chance not that you're actually gone, but you're gone, you know.
Yeah, in the Lakota tradition, there's also darkness practices where you're
There is.
up in the dark, and
Mm-hmm.
I haven't actually experienced that, but I've heard about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it
There
sounds
many
wonderful.
practices have, are you in a cave in the dark for years?
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, it sounds like your retreat's going to be very experiential.
Yes, it will be. Yes.
That's wonderful. And I like that you have the structure of the 8 gates. And it sounds very rich, and also some art maybe, and drawing, and other ways of expressing than words. And
Yes, and I'm very excited about it. It's my
yeah.
one of my first times for a long time. I did some retreats before Zen, but this is not a Zen retreat. So beware if you're not Zen in the way that Zen does, not Zen rituals and ceremonies, which I love. And I do have another book, as I said, I'm writing on the shamanic bones of Zen. And when that comes out, we'll do some of the, like, really do ceremony and ritual, and not try to be empty or whatever, these kinds of things, you know. We're going to really work some of the rituals, and maybe we'll do it in the dark.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I loved our time together.
Yes, me too.
And our connection, and we're so honored that you'll be teaching through Tara Mandala, and thank you for coming on to the symposium last May. It was a really important piece to have your voice there. And yeah, you're an amazing combination of a Zen master and a healer and a seer, all in this particular body in this moment. And I really encourage everyone to take advantage of this amazing being who is appearing now to us, and learn what you can from her, and where she can take you in yourself. It's really powerful, and it's wonderful that you're doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and trusting me.
Oh, of
Thank
course.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. We've come
Yeah.
to the end.
And
All right.
maybe before we very end, we can ask Joe if he's found the image of Troma Nakmo, just to put that image on, so people who maybe haven't seen her can catch a glimpse.
Mhm.
Yeah, there she is. So that's her at the bottom there. Can you zoom in on that bottom one? So she has the Vajra chopper. That's what she chops up your body with. And then she's got the skull cup, which expands and your body's put into. But you see there, that's the fierce feminine. She looks kind of red in my image. Is that red or black?
And she's black here.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, either
Beautiful.
we see that as scary or we see that as an awakening figure.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really
Exactly.
what this is about, awakening in the dark.
Yeah. I'm sorry I couldn't quite get, I thought I had, it was prepared at one point and something happened. So
Well, we'll figure it out for when you do your retreat.
yeah, to bring that,
You have that image.
yeah, to share that image. I think, let me see. I know we got to go, but let me try it one more time. See if it's anywhere. Okay. Not, it's not there. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank
She's in the
you.
dark.
She's in that, she's not wanting to be seen right now. She said, I'm not ready for you to present me. I think you need to get more ready yourself. That's what I always see it as, like, oh, okay. Don't go don't go treading where too soon to other places.
Yeah. Yeah, wait till you're really invited.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much, Lama Tsultrim and Osho Zenju, for this delightful conversation. And thank you all for attending and joining us. I just wanted to let you know that June 10th to the 16th, being Light Messengers of Darkness, is Osho Zenju's retreat with Tara Mandala, and we hope to see you there. Thank you again.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
thank you. Lots of love, Zenju.
Thank you, Lama.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Reading some of the chat boxes. Sorry we couldn't get to everyone. Next time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Lots of love, everyone.
Bye.